This is actually the only Sony lens that we own, the Sony 35mm f1.8 lens from Sony. So let's go over the pros and cons. Focal length. The focal length of 35mm is a very convenient one. It is wide enough to get good establishing shots of scenes and capture the background, as well as just moving into the range of flattering and intimate close-ups. If you're not familiar with the 35mm focal length, the film Call Me By Your Name was shot completely on a 35mm lens. 2. Image. The image coming out of this lens is fairly sharp and renders colour fairly cleanly. We've been continuously pleased with the shots we've been able to capture with this 35mm, and how, alongside its convenient focal length, makes for a great lens. This lens does not have any major characteristics such as rainbow flares or a warm tint, but the image it does produce is clean. Focusing distance. The minimum focusing distance is 22 centimeters, which means you can get fairly close up to your subjects and get some very good close-ups, detail shots, and insert shots. Aperture. An aperture of f1.8 makes this lens great for low light, again aiding the versatility of this lens. The bokeh is nice, and when you get close up to your subjects with the lens fully opened up, the image can look very appealing. And with the right lighting, it can compete with a lot of cinema glass. By being able to open up to f1.8 means you don't need to bump up the ISO and sacrifice image quality as often as you would with a lens that is only able to open up to, say, something like f4. And so if you're shooting a lot of indoor or low light situations, this lens would be a budget-friendly alternative to the more expensive Sony f1.8 G Master lens or the Sigma R f1.4 lens as well. Price. For the price of $565 new and about $450 used, this lens is much more budget-friendly to the more expensive alternatives such as the Sony 1.4 G Master lens, which comes up to approximately $1,579 US. The Sigma equivalent also comes to around $850. If your budget can't cut the higher tag of the f1.4 lenses, the 35mm f1.8 is an incredible budget alternative. Lightweight and size. This lens only weighs 280 grams or 0.96 pounds. This makes the lens very easy to transport and great for travel filmmaking, documentary, or guerrilla style film shoots. This lens fits into the palm of my hands and is really easy to fit into a backpack. Autofocus. Autofocus works great when using any of the focusing options. It's generally reliable and again aids the convenience of the camera. When working with small teams with no focus pullers or on very fast run and gun type shoots, autofocus, especially good autofocus, is really helpful. The face tracking also works rather well, being only limited by the old software on the Sony a7 III. If you have any of the newer Sony cameras such as the Sony a7S III, FX30, a7 IV, etc., then you have an even better experience with the autofocus. Cons. There aren't a lot of cons, but here are some things to consider. Aperture. Although an aperture of f1.8 is great, as a prime it would be useful to be able to open up the lens a little more for even darker situations, such as offices, indoor sporting events, as well as shooting at night. The other lenses, such as the Sony 35mm f1.4 and the Sigma f1.4, definitely have the edge in those situations, but they also come with a much greater price tag. If you know you shoot a lot in low light situations, it may be worth considering the Sony G Master and Sigma f1.4 lenses. However, if you're already shooting at an aperture greater than f1.8, you may consider the 35mm f1.8 and save a lot of money. Sharpness. Don't get me wrong, this lens is fairly sharp. This is important to note. But if you're in the market for a 35mm prime lens, lenses such as the Sigma 35mm f1.4 art lens is much sharper when opened up between f1.8 and 2.8. However, once you stop the Sony f1.8 lens above this, particularly at 5.6, this lens becomes incredibly sharp and renders textures, especially in the skin, a lot better. Despite all of this, you're able to easily apply sharpening in post, so it's not a major issue. However, with the differences between shooting between these two lenses, at f1.8, the clarity, I think would be the best word, is distinguishable between the two. Manual focusing. The focus ring on this lens, although very smooth, we've found it doesn't have a lot of grip, which makes it tough to pull focus by hand. Though the easiest solution around this is to purchase a rubber focusing ring that you can wrap around the lens and pull focus much easier. Though with a lens like this, you'll probably be shooting autofocus most of the time. If money was no object, I'd probably go for the f1.4 lenses, simply because they are superior in almost every single way. However, money is an object, and this is a great budget alternative from those lenses that we've talked about today. If you're a filmmaker looking at this lens and similar lenses, I hope this review helped. Thank you.